But first, a wave of rage and violence has spread across the Islamic Maghreb this week, sparked off by protests over an incendiary anti-Islamic video on YouTube. One of the first places the violence first broke out was Libya. The US ambassador to Libya and 3 other embassy staffers were killed in rocket attacks in Benghazi. Hours after the attack, the Libyan President Mohamed Magharif offered full cooperation in the probe over the killing of the US ambassador, and the US military moved 2 destroyers towards the Libyan coast. The US also dispatching a Marine Corps anti-terrorist security team to boost security in Libya. America now investigating whether the attack on its embassy in Libya was planned in advance. The assault was earlier believed to have been a spontaneous reaction to an anti-Islamic film, but early investigations now suggest the attack on the US embassy in Libya may have been planned by elements owing allegiance to the former Gaddafi regime. But the fires, meanwhile, have been spreading, and demonstrators have been attacking US embassies in Yemen and Egypt too, as protests over the film have spread across the Middle East and North Africa. In Sana'a, hundreds of Yemeni demonstrators smashed windows of security offices, burned cars outside the American embassy before finally storming the compound. In Egypt, protesters hurled stones at a police cordon around the US embassy in central Cairo after climbing into the embassy and then tearing down the American flag. And it was a rare day in the US presidential election campaign back home on US soil when foreign policy took center stage instead of the economy. Republican challenger Mitt Romney trading barbs with President Barack Obama over the handling of the outrage and growing anti-Americanism in the Middle East over the anti-Islam video. Romney accused the Obama administration of being weak, to which Obama later retorted saying, and I quote, "Romney has a tendency to shoot first and aim later." All right, now as we look at the fires and anti-Americanism raging across the Islamic Maghreb, we're joined on the world by West Asia expert and senior journalist Dr. Wael Awad, who's here with me in a studio. And we also have with us 2 West Asia analysts, Roshanak Toghavi from Washington and Majid Rafidzadeh from California, who are joining us also on the world. Thank you very much for the 2 of you for joining us, taking out the time. Majid, if I can come across to you first and ask you, how much do you view what has happened across the Islamic Maghreb in the last 48 to 72 hours as a direct fallout of the anti-Islamic movie?
This is, I think, an important question, but what I see many experts try to analyze this through the lenses of clash of civilization or religions or, cultures. But what I think is that there are other factors. Here, what you see, there are 2 forces of power working at the same time. These recent attacks and violence basically has happened in the countries which have recently been able to overthrow the regime of the governments of Hosni Mubarak, Gaddafi, and Saleh. And the new elected governments and the new transitional governments are trying to transform into a more democratic system of governance, and they're trying to bring stability and security across the country. But we have here, there is some instability, and this instability has been a perfect environment for other groups, for other non-state actors, and we can say for well-armed Islamist,
absolutely, and
extremist Islamist groups.
All right. We get your point. We got your point, Dr. Awad. The point that Majid was making, that it's not just, as we were discussing, it's not just the anti-Islamic movie protest that we're seeing. It's also opportunistic protests. Would you not agree, across the Middle East and North Africa?
No, I don't think it is an opportunist or it is a spontaneous. It is well planned. It has been on the air for some time.
Well planned, you say?
Yes, of course, because it has been on talk for more than 15 days that this film is going to be launched on the anniversary of the 11th of September. And they were warning that there will be demonstration against the American interests in the Middle East. And surprisingly, it happened only in those countries where the America tried to promote democracy, in the name of democracy, brought to the shore the Islamists who has taken power and who have been in the helm of power, and now they are the one leading the streets.
They're the one leading the streets. Also, let me get in Roshanak Tagavi, who's joining us from Washington at this point. Roshanak, do you feel, and you're listening into Majid and Dr. Wael Awad, do you feel that the developments of the last 72 hours also reflects the growing coordination and strength, perhaps, of Islamic right-wingers, of Islamic hardliners across the Islamic Maghreb, perhaps also a growing influence of the Muslim Brotherhood, Roshanak?
No, there is no evidence of growing coordination between, Islamic extremists throughout the countries. First, though, the Muslim Brotherhood now, of which the Egyptian president is a part of, it's not considered an Islamic extremist movement. It's actually, it's now a democratically elected political party that is now playing a stronger role in the Egyptian government. And there's been no evidence that they've played any roles in encouraging the protests. The problem that the United States has right now is the challenge for the United States right now is over whether the Egyptian government can successfully protect the U.S. embassy from the protests. But so far, there's been no evidence that the Muslim Brotherhood is actually coordinating or coordinating and planning
Majid, what do you feel about this? What do you feel about this? Do you think, as Dr. Awad was saying, it was planned in time with the 9/11 anniversary? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing that Al-Qaeda will operate in every place that it sees there is instability, political instability, where there is no centralized government who can bring security across the country. So you see that groups will operate not just inside Yemen, they will also operate inside any countries that there is some sort of instability, like Egypt or like Libya. And these are well-trained, well-armed groups. Some of these recent attacks, these recent attacks actually there are reports that they were planned in advance, and they were well-trained, organized groups who have operated these attacks.
All right. So, Dr. Awad, do you then see a resurgence of the Al-Qaeda? Is incidentally, you yourself, as well as Majid, have pointed out that it could very well have been pre-planned in time with the anniversary of the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Is this then opportunistic resurgence by the Al-Qaeda?
Al-Qaeda is already brought by the United States into the North African state and into Syria. Let us not be naive. Let us understand the logistic of the United States policy in the Middle East and the North African state. We all know that all the members of the Al-Qaeda were in Libya, were themselves trained in the United States, fought in Afghanistan, captured and given to the Gaddafi, and Gaddafi tortured them, and on the behest of the American, they were released. Now listen. There are two new elements to the crisis in now.
Yeah.
First, American troops wanted to attack the Malis, where the Al-Qaeda is now.
Right.
They wanted to attack Libya. So we will see more drones attack in Libya now. There could be a military basis for the state in Benghazi and in the border with Egypt. Why? Because there is a new element in Egypt also. The film, which we don't know if there is a film really exists or just a 14-minute
clip. Yeah.
We don't know if there is a film.
Yeah.
But the Christians' involvement of the Coptic in Egypt is a new element of the forthcoming crisis. I think that is the most important point we have to see, and we will see in the coming weeks or coming months.
Is this mismanagement of a growing anti-American sentiment across the Islamic Maghreb that we're seeing from Washington, as both the Republicans and Democrats are more busy with domestic politics and the election?
See, the irony of the matter is that when the United States goes to a country, cause an anarchy, comes out front and they say we are victors, we have brought democracy. They went to Afghanistan, after 11 years they said the Taliban were terrorists, now talk to the Taliban. They went into Iraq for the name of weapon of mass destruction, it was weapon of mass deception, there was no weapon there. So then they came out, they are a victor, it is a civil war, it is sectarian violence in Iraq. Now they went to Libya, they know that they say they brought democracy through the Arab Spring, they hijacked the Arab Spring, give it to the extremists, hold at the core of the power now, and they are the one running the show.
Yeah. So then now we have to ask the question about propriety and about sensitivity on the part of Google to refuse to block this video on YouTube. We know they've blocked it in access to this video, this anti-Islamic movie, in Egypt and Libya after the protests, after the violence. We know countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, India also have moved also to appeal for a block. But the fact that when Google says we cannot do it at the cost of American free speech, I have to ask you for your opinion. At what global cost can America afford to continue to defend free speech?
You know, the problem with the American and those who are inside America, they understand the American law and they apply it where they can hurt others. It is not the freedom of expression. It is the freedom of insults, where you can insult a glorified prophet for 1.5 billion people in the world. This is insane. This is not freedom of expression. I can abuse anybody. Anybody can abuse. Do we have to retaliate by lunatic abuse into the Christianity and also in Judaism in the name of freedom of expression? There has to be a UN Security Council meet on this to put a limit to all this kind of attacking other religions in the name of freedom of expression. Let us put on the table, not calling on Al-Qaeda to go and fight in Syria.
I wouldn't, I mean, you'd have to forgive me for trying to put words into your mouth, but it almost is as if this was a multinational conspiracy. I mean, are you saying that even the movie in its creation was a conspiracy?
Yes, of course. Why then you have to show the film on the anniversary? Why you have to kill an American in a country where they are the one who have already distributed the weapon for them, trained them, and they supported them in toppling Gaddafi? There must be a reason, because the United States having a 350,000 soldiers coming out from Afghanistan, coming out from Iraq, where they will go? They will go to Iraq, United States, they will go to Libya.
But on the flip side of this entire argument is the fact that this is clearly, from what it seems, a movie aimed at inciting Muslim sentiments. Perhaps it has succeeded too easily, would you not say?
I fully agree, because the United States and the people in the United States, they deal with the Arabs and the Muslims as an object. They study the DNA of ours and they apply it in a manner that only to provoke and incite the people, where the mobs take the lead and the intellectuals take the backstage.
It has become so.
That is what they are doing.
Unfortunately.
This is whether it is in the Arab Spring, whether it is now. We do not want extremists to talk in our language. We understand the language of the United States. We are 40 million expats all over the world, Arabs. We are able to take on them with the same weapon they are fighting with us. Whether it is a television, whether it is a debate, whether it's in the law, somebody has to go and file a case in the United States and prosecute, bring these people to justice and find out who is behind all this mess they are creating because of their interest, not dealing with the core issue in the Middle East, what we are suffering at.
All right, well, we'll have to leave it at that. But thanks, Dr. Wael Awad, very much for sparing the time. Thanks also to Majid Rafizadeh and Roshanak for joining us from America. Thank you all. That's about all the time.